Hi, this is Dr. Gregory Sadler. I'm a professor of philosophy and the president and founder of an educational consulting company called Reason.io, where we put philosophy into practice. I've studied and taught philosophy for over 20 years, and I find that many people run into difficulties reading classic philosophical texts. Sometimes it's the way things are said or how the text is structured. But the concepts themselves are not always that complicated, and that's where I come in. To help students and lifelong learners, I've been producing longer lecture videos and posting them to YouTube. Many viewers say they find them useful. What you're currently watching is part of a new series of shorter videos, each of them focused on one core concept from an important philosophical text. I hope you find it useful as well. Book 11 of Augustine's Confessions contains some very profound inquiry and reflection having to do with time itself. And there's a number of different themes. One of them, I think, that we can focus upon, which emerges over and over again, is the division of time into three portions, or you might say aspects or parts, past, present, and future. In the ancient world, it was already common to talk about these as being three times, past, present, and future, and then to try to figure out how do they actually come together. And the first chapter where he's really going to start discussing this is number 11, and there he's talking about eternity and sort of comparing these times against that. And we're going to talk about eternity elsewhere. So he says that the past is driven, translated here, driven back by the future. It's actually ex futuro. So it's driven out of the future. And the future follows, consequi, out of the past. So they're connected together in a certain way. And then he says all past and future are created and take their course from that which is ever present. Now, what is it that's ever present? Eternity, not the present as we tend to think about it. So we're going to come to, examine this as we move deeper into the question. And there's this very, very famous passage. Augustine asks, well, what is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I want to explain it to someone who does ask me, I don't know. But I can say this. I can state this confidently. So we've got some preliminary starting points. If nothing were passing away, well, then there would be no past time. If nothing were coming, there would be no future time. And if nothing existed, there would be no present time. And then he says, how then can these two kinds of time, the past and the future, be? This is a kind of a problem, right? The past no longer is, and the future is not yet here. And he says, if the present were always present and wouldn't pass into the past, it wouldn't be time, but rather eternity. So if the present, so as to be time, must be so constituted that it passes into the past, how can we say that it actually is? Because it's going to stop being, right? So our question is, what is the relationship now between time and being? And then he raises another question, and he explores this a bit more in the discussions about measuring time. But he asks the question, can time be long or short, right? Because we do say a long time and a short time. And we don't say this except, he says, of the past or the future. Now, of course, you might object, oh man, when I'm in the present and I'm bored out of my mind, it sure seems like a long present. And, when I'm having a lot of fun, we've got that expression, time flies when you're having fun. It seems very short. Well, yes, but what's going on there is in the present in which you're bored, you're anticipating time ahead and you're like, oh man, why is it taking so long, right? Or when you're on a drive and your person in the back seat is saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet, right? And when you have the proverbial time flies when you're having fun, how do you know that time flies when you're having fun? Because it's already over. It's, you may still be in a present, but most of that present has slipped into the past, and you're like, oh man, where did that hour go, right? So there is really something to this. And he says, the past no longer exists, but we can say that the past was long, right? And the future doesn't exist yet, but we can say it will be long. And he says that past time, which was so long, well, I've got a question about that. When was it so long, right? Was it long when it was already past, or before that, when it was still present? It could be long at the time when that existed, which could be long. Once past, it didn't exist, so it couldn't be long in the past because it doesn't exist. So let's not say past time was long. We will not find anything which was long. Let's say that time once present was long because it was long when it was present. So that's, a possible way of making sense of it. When he talks about the present time, he says, the present time we can't actually call long. Why not? And he begins by talking about a year. A year seems like a long time. Is a year present? We could say, okay, we're in the year 2025 right now. But right now, as I'm filling this, we're at a certain point in the year. And we could talk about the day, right? And a bunch of days have already passed, and those are past. And a bunch of days are yet to come, and those are future. One day is present. Okay, well, this day at least could be long. Can it? Not as present, because am I experiencing this entire day as a day? I'm experiencing this tiny moment, and then that moment's gone into the past, and I'm in another moment. You're already in that moment now as we're going on. So the present is only present as moments, and he talks about the present as flying from the future into the past, and this is what we call the flow of time, right? So when it comes to length of time, we could say the past in a certain sense can be long and the future can be long. The present can't. Then in 18, he's going to bring up another interesting question. If future and past times do exist in any sort of way, if they have some being, well, where is that? And he says that would have to be as present things. And then he says, when true accounts of the past are given, it's not the things themselves which have passed away that are drawn from memory, but words conceived by their images. And he talks about his boyhood. When I recall and talk about my boyhood, I perceive its image, but I perceive it in the present, because that's when I can actually perceive things. I'm perceiving what I remember, so what is in my memory. And he says, we also premeditate our future actions, and premeditation is present to us. But the action that we're premeditating does not yet exist because it is yet to be, and it might not actually come into being at all, right? And our memories could also be wrong as well. He doesn't worry too much about that right now. And he says, look at the vast multitude of such things that offer me examples of this. I look at the dawn, I foretell the coming sunrise. What I look at is present, what I foretell is future. It's not the sun that's about to be, because the sun already exists, but it's rising, which is not yet. If I didn't picture within my mind this sunrise, I would be unable to predict it, right? So we're getting a clarification slowly about what the relationship between this is. And then in chapter 20, he's going to say, it's now plain and clear, neither past nor future are existent. And it's not quite right to say that there's 3 times, past, present, and future. That's the way that we typically talk about things. I mean, then he suggests maybe here's a better way of referencing it. It might properly be said that there are 3 times the present of things past, the present of things present, and the present of things future. So when the past was present, that's its time. The future is what's not yet here, but it will eventually be present. And he says that, where are we going to find these? The present of things present, he says, is in intuition, conuitas. So, what we're actually perceiving, you could say. And where is the present of things past? It's in memory, memoria. And where is the present of things future? Expectation, expectatio. And where do these take place or exist? In the soul, in the anima, right? So they're not there out in the world. They're in our, we could say, mental acts in relation to these things. So he says there, if we're permitted to say this, then I see 3 times, and I affirm there are 3 times. And it might be said that there are 3 times, past, present, and future, as common usage incorrectly puts it. This may be stated, and he says, I'm not going to object to it, so long as we understand what we say. What is future is not now existent, nor is that which is past, right? And then finally, the last important discussion of this comes up in the crux of how we measure time. And he's going to say that the mind, so there's a parallel between 28 and 20, the mind looks forward, that's expectation, right? It considers, that's the intuition there, and it remembers, and this is how it can actually measure the time. But what is it actually measuring? He says, it is not then future time that is long, but a long future is a long expectation of the future, nor is past time, which is not long, but a long past is a long memory of the past. So past, present, future, these are not, properly speaking, 3 times. They're 3 ways in which things, we could say, are in time, namely in a present, but a present which was or is to be or is right now. And what is it that allows us to be able to think about this or talk about this or even experience it? It is the fact that these are correlated to our soul or to our mind and to these acts of the mind of remembering, perceiving, or intuiting, and expecting or looking forward to something. So it's not as if there is just, past, present, future sitting out there on a table or something like that, arranged in a timeline. Rather, it's that it's connected to our very experience as beings that have souls or minds of time and the 3 times.